So let me begin by saying that although wisdom goes to great lengths to emphasize the fact that I'm or he is or was my tutee, him and I are actually classmates. We had our undergraduate degree together. So you see, that's why he loves to tease me a lot. Uh, so I've been invited today to speak about reading culture as a pathway to English speaking mastery. That's the topic. Um, I do know that there is a common misconception that if you want to improve your vocabulary or if you want to widen it, that you go to the dictionary. After all, that is where we find all the words in any given language and together with their meanings and examples and so on. And there is another misconception that you could learn a language, or, well, not learn, I think I should say become proficient in a language by attending classes in that language. This, again, is a misconception. You would learn the language, obviously, you will learn the structures of the language, the grammar, the syntax, all the formal aspects of the language that you need to know, the technicalities, as we say. But to really master a language, you have to be versed in the literature of that language, whatever language it is. But our concern is English. So to learn English and to master it, I think you can't do that if you are not an avid reader, if you don't love to read. If you say, well, I watch TV or I attend classes, sorry, but the play of the language is going to be lost to you. So what would be the point in establishing a personal or private reading culture? The first reason is this: you want to learn new words. Now, every day we all live in certain contexts in our lives. We either have a particular place of work, we live in a particular area, or we study a particular discipline in school. Those disciplines, those contexts tend to restrict the words that we use in any particular or any given language. That is to say, if you are a student of English, for instance, you are not likely to be too familiar with the register of students of engineering or students of medicine, for instance, or students of agriculture. They may say words that you don't know or you haven't heard of or you are not familiar with. Wisdom spoke about the fear of long words. So, even though I teach literature, that is a word I know I'm never going to use. It's too long. So, but anyway, if you are a grammarian or you are a psychiatrist, I think, and you handle phobias, then it would be your business to know that word because it is something that someone fears. But what I'm saying is this, that your context can dictate the number of words or the kind of words that you know. But what is the beauty of reading? How does it introduce you to new words? Because reading transforms you from the context in which you live and exist to contexts that you would never find yourself in reality. From the phantasmagoric to the magical to the futuristic to the scientific, and it also transforms you from your physical location. That is why we even call reading armchair travel. While you are sitting in your chair, you are traveling to places. You travel to the moon, you travel to other continents, other countries, and you see how other people live their lives. And so reading allows you to inhabit contexts that you otherwise would not inhabit. And by inhabiting those contexts, you are now gaining access to the vocabulary of those contexts. So that is how reading will improve your vocabulary. Again, the difference between the dictionary and the novel, for instance, where we are reading a story, is that the novel would give you words in context. Here's an example. Take the word lap, L-A-P, lap, right? One of the definitions for that word is that it is one circuit around a racetrack. You know the racetrack where runners compete. So one circuit, is a lap, isn't it? Now the dictionary would give you that definition. That is just an image. What you see is just what you picture is the circuit, right? But in a story, there would be a character whom you know or are getting to know. There are things that have happened before you come to that lap, and the story tells you that the runner, for the first time, completed one lap around the racetrack. Now, in that scenario in the novel, you don't have just a picture of a racetrack. You have a picture of a character whom you know, who is going around and you can see them. And that action, because inherently we are storytelling creatures, that will help you to remember that lap does not only mean the upper part of a seated person's legs, but it can also mean to go a circuit around a racetrack. Again, the same word when you say, every time I give my dog a bowl of milk, she laps it up very quickly. And then you know again that lap means to consume a liquid with the tongue, right? So again, there is a story attached. There is a character there, the dog. These stories allow us to remember the context, to remember the words, because they give the words context, unlike the dictionary, which is just impersonal. So the development of the story allows you to retain it. And then you may say, well, what then is the difference between the book and the movie, or between the book and television? After all, when you watch TV or when you watch movies, you also hear new words, isn't it? You travel also in your armchair, although this one you are viewing it and so on. But here's the thing. All of us are products of the school system. Is that right? We are all products of the school system. So from the very beginning, our brain has been programmed to associate learning with the book, with reading. So it is easier for your brain to retain what it reads in the book because it respects the book as a source of knowledge than you would if you were watching a movie because you chose to watch it as entertainment. And we don't take entertainment as seriously as we take the book. Even if you are reading a work of fiction, it is still there. It's a book. You respect it for being a book. So that association will make your brain to retain words faster. And like I always say, you keep in mind that stories are the custodians of language. That is why we tell stories. We have Tatsuniyoi, isn't it? From the very beginning, we tell our children stories. And it is through these stories that they begin to learn language. Sometimes from the repetitions in songs, they repeat words and so on. They hear the stories and they ask, what does that mean? In real life, there is no gizo, there is no kogi. But we tell them stories and they ask, what are they doing? Because in those stories, we are giving them context, right? So therefore, and again, another thing is reading always leads to discussion. You may not necessarily be reading a story. You may be reading an argument. Like wisdom talks about theory, you may be reading an argument, a theoretical piece, or a newspaper article. But when you read, it seldom ever stays with you alone. You go out and you discuss what you've read. If it's a newspaper article, an opinion piece written by someone, a news report, what do? The first thing you do is to share it. Have you heard or have you read the news? This is what happened. If it's a story, you want to discuss it. If it's an argument, a theoretical piece, an essay, a chapter, whatever it is, you want to talk about the arguments that you found there, whether you agree with the argument or you disagree with it. Now that discussion will now help you in two ways. First of all, by discussing, you are again internalizing what you have read through discussions. That is why we had always group discussions when we were students. Because the more you teach what you have learned, the more it stays with you. So through discussion, you are now practicing. And then again, through discussion, you learn the correct pronunciation of the word. Because the book will not give you, since it's not a dictionary. However, you learn the correct pronunciation. And discussion now, in turn again, does what? It improves your conversation abilities. You become a more interesting conversationalist, you become more proficient, because the more you use a language, the better you become in that language. Like we say, language is like a metal, a piece of metal. If you don't use it, it becomes rusty. And so you have to polish it again, use anti-rust, and the only anti-rust is to practice it. So, and finally, because I don't want to keep the stage too long, when you read, you also encounter turns of phrase, the play of language. In grammar classes, you are given the correct and proper context in which words are used. But in literature, in fiction, that is where you see language in play. That is where you see native or proficient users of the language playing with the language, turning it, twisting it, throwing it up and dispersing it. They don't care